So we are here at the federal prison in Dublin.
FCI Dublin,
Dublin's federal correctional institution.
The women's prison in Dublin is being permanently closed.
But FCI Dublin, to many people, was called the Federal Rape Club because of how pervasive the instances of sexual abuse and sexual violence were at that facility. We're talking about everyone from the warden to the chaplain to guards who were abusing women at the facility. When we heard about this, we knew that we had to do something and we had to act fast. We wrote to the Department of Justice and asked the Department of Justice to bring compassionate release cases on behalf of survivors of sexual abuse themselves. But we knew that they wouldn't act fast enough, and so we had to get involved. And so FAMM, through our Federal Compassionate Release Clearinghouse, convened a group of brilliant lawyers to start working on compassionate release motions for survivors of abuse who had been abused at FCI Dublin. And these were the first motions of their kind. And we were able to take what we were learning through our litigation of those motions and bring those lessons to the Sentencing Commission and tell the Sentencing Commission why they had to amend their guidelines to include sexual abuse as a ground for a reduction in sentence motion. And the Sentencing Commission heard us. The first motion was brought in May of 2023, and that case was granted. And it was one of the first cases from FCI Dublin to be granted where the woman was released because the judge recognized that no one should be made to endure sexual abuse during their time in federal prison. And we have now brought at least 30 women home. All this came to a head in spring of 2024 when FCI Dublin was actually shut down because the Bureau of Prisons determined that it could just no longer keep people safe who were in that facility because of how significant the abuse was. That didn't fix things. That actually opened another problem because then the Bureau of Prisons had to figure out where to transfer all of the women who were incarcerated there. The transfers themselves were a mess. They were botched. They left many women with additional trauma. People are sentenced to a term of imprisonment, and that term of imprisonment is supposed to meet certain needs. It's supposed to meet the purposes of punishment and rehabilitation. But no one should have to endure sexual abuse in prison. And when someone has been sexually abused in prison, it so dramatically alters the nature of incarceration that that person should be able to come home. Our vision was that this was never just about FCI Dublin. We knew that if this was happening at Dublin, it was happening elsewhere. And we wanted anyone across the country who was being sexually abused in prison to have the opportunity to have their sentence reduced because of the abuse that they had endured. Survivors of sexual abuse face enormous hurdles to getting justice, whether they're in custody or not. And so every time we win a case, I know that there are other people who are sitting in prison who think if they did it, I can do it too. And it encourages them to be brave and to trust us with their stories and to trust us with their case and hope that we can also free them. When we think about Dublin, Dublin really was the canary in the coal mine. Once the women from FCI Dublin had been transferred to other facilities, other women and other people in other facilities started learning about their Dublin experiences and started asking if they too could bring motions for sentencing reductions because of abuse that they had endured at other facilities. And so although the project started with FCI Dublin, we now have cases that we've won from facilities across the country. Working on these cases really changed my life. Every time that I get a referral for someone who has been sexually abused, I see the possibility of what we might be able to do for them and for their family, and it's a great responsibility, and it's a very humbling experience.